Welcome to the Whole Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you become a fat burner, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey there, it's Debbie Potts, the host of the Whole Athlete Podcast, and today is one of my special Friday podcast episodes where I'm talking to you about ways to improve your performance in your sport. So swimming, biking, running. Today we're going to talk a little bit more just generally, what are your fitness goals, especially as we go into a new year. We should have probably some idea for racing next year, any specific A races that you probably already registered for. And then we have our B races and some C races that are just good for training. So I know I registered for Ironman Canada, as I have not been able to race since 2012, Ironman Canada, Ironman Hawaii. And I felt the need to register myself since Penticton is the new host of Ironman Canada after it's been in Whistler the last few years. So it's back to where it belongs in Penticton, and I love that race. It's a fun town to have an Ironman in because the whole town gets involved in it. So what am I doing now to prepare my body from the inside out so I can do an Ironman, which is similar to if I was going to do a marathon next year? If you've been listening to Wednesday podcast episodes, I've been doing more focus on how to build your health, how to build the whole athlete from the inside out. And as I just got certified yesterday as a new functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, it's called FDN Practitioner for short, to go with my nutritional therapy practitioner training, what I did in the past 3 years, did that program, and also Kion Coach with Ben Greenfield I did last year, and before that was Paul Chek, the Chek Institute Holistic Lifestyle Coach, and before that was USA Triathlon Coach and Metabolic Efficiency Specialist. So I've been constantly learning and training and following my passion and purpose. And it's to help train the whole athlete from the inside out with the holistic method style program that I've created for groups and individuals. And my goal is to help you be healthy, optimize your health, and improve your performance and longevity by training. The focus on your training should be about nutrition and exercise and sleep and stress and mobility and digestion and gut health and your proper hydration and, of course, happiness, gratitude, being silly, playing more, letting your guard down, stop being so uptight and anxious and serious. There's a lot of that's related to adrenal issues or HPA axis, technically. So my goal is to help you avoid going through what happened to me, that I wrote all about my book that you can buy on Amazon and spread that word around. Life is not a race. It is a journey with the holistic method. And as you may have listened to this podcast since 2011, myself and John Smith, we talked about Fit, Fat, Fast for 100 episodes, and they're all in the archives on my podcast, debbiepotts.net. And part of that journey that John invited me on was talking about what I talked about for years since 2005, do metabolic efficiency testing, training your body to burn fat, higher percentages of fat at higher heart rates, how to train that way so on race day, when you're ready to go a little bit harder, you're still burning some fat and not being anaerobic and breaking yourself down and getting exhausted before the finish line. So we've been doing that for a long time. I've been doing this metabolic efficiency since 2005 when I did testing on the New Leaf testing equipment for 10 years on and off. And then I myself have raced since 2001 Ironmans and marathon before that, and triathlon since 1995 with Danskin sprint triathlons as my first races. And then I got into distance cycling, Seattle to Portland bike ride every year, and ride around Mount Rainier bike every year. Ride around Mount Rainier ramrod. And so anyways, my point to all this is that I've been doing all of this stuff for a long time. I try to practice what I preach. And now, since my own adrenal exhaustion, so called, you're not supposed to say that, it's really the hypothalamus to pituitary gland to adrenal gland, HPA axis dysregulation that I had happened to me back in 2013, which is what my book's about. What happened to Debbie Potts in 2013 and how did this all happen? So what we're doing on Fridays to wrap this up, long intro, is that we want to improve performance and longevity. And the way we train is really important to avoiding that breakdown and burnout from the inside out. So there's a reason I became FDN practitioner. I've been wanting to do this program since I heard Reed Davis, the founder of FDN, on Sean Croxton's Underground Wellness podcast that I loved. It was my first podcast I listened to, and Sean and Jimmy Moore I listened to back when I learned about podcasts in 2011 after meeting Sean Croxton at a conference. So I've always wanted to do FDN program because a lot of what happened to me is what we talk about, those hidden internal stressors you don't know about, but also this chronic exercise we do as endurance athletes is not good for you. It's not helping your health, especially if you race a lot. Maybe if you did an event every other year and just did shorter workouts on your off years, that might be better for you. Doing more HIIT training, doing more infrared saunas, cold thermogenesis, do more hormetic stressors rather than this long distance chronic cardio that we're adding stress to our body and giving us cortisol dominance and have this catabolic dominance, we say, as well as that it's excessive cortisol and lowering our hormones, perhaps causing an imbalance between our hormones as the catabolic hormone cortisol to our DHEA cortisol or DHEA hormone, causing that anabolic hormone to be lower and causing this imbalance, which leads to catabolic dominance, cortisol dominance, and leads to a domino effect of hormone imbalances down the way as DHEA is over other hormones. And so we get this, low testosterone, low estrogen, low progesterone. All of our hormones get low. I bet you would know if you did lab testing with 4 saliva test samples throughout a 24-hour cycle to really know what's going on. So as FDN practitioners, we don't treat the lab results and we don't just do one lab. We get 5 labs that we recommend doing at one time, like over a few weeks, and look at all those results together to help put the pieces of the puzzle together for you. Now, today we're just talking about how to improve your exercise part. So the one element of the holistic method is exercise. And obviously we talk a lot about how to exercise, how to train in the podcast and in our training programs for Ironman, marathons, cycling, whatever long distance event or short distance you're doing. But why do you race? I think is an important question. What makes you want to sign up for another race? Is it just to cross the finish line and have this amazing feeling that you did something huge, you accomplished a huge goal, or is, have your name called out at the finish line, you are an Ironman or whatever race you're doing? But there's some level, some point we need to go stop, pause, and reset, reboot your system and look at, okay, why am I racing? As I did a podcast a few years ago of, what are you racing for? What are you running from? And perhaps we need to alternate some other life activities instead of racing 5 triathlons a year, or marathons, cycling, or Spartan races, whatever you do, and really face what you may be trying to avoid in life. And maybe, it's addiction to exercise, or you're afraid to eat, your relationship with food, so you exercise more, or you don't want to spend time with your family because you don't like your spouse or your job, and not really dealing with why we're racing. So I think that's something to look at, because to improve your performance is also looking at those external stressors in your life. Who are those energy robbers? Who are those people that make you feel anxious or depressed or angry and stressed out? What about traffic and the toxins in your air that you're breathing in? Maybe you're working in a workplace that has a lot of chemicals in it. What about the products you're using on your skin and your household cleaners? There's all these environmental chemicals and toxins that are around us that are contributing to that beaker of stress. That stress comes through that filter, and your brain, your hypothalamus, doesn't know which stress is what stress, where is it coming from, and is it internal or external? Is it your work or your finances or your exercise session? It's all stress, one category, stress. And too much of it, as we know, is not good. It's toxic and can create this whole internal chaos. We say domino effect of metabolic systems. So we get this breakdown in our hormones, our immune system, our digestion system, our detoxification system, our energy, our neurotransmitters, and we just have this whole breakdown in our body. One thing's off, everything's off. And a lot of that can be resolved by collecting data, identifying your areas of opportunity by doing the functional lab testing. But if we look at how we train, that's something you can do today. So let me focus and not ramble. But you got to look at what you're training for. Longevity, if you're trying to just look good and feel good in your clothes, feel good with your clothes off, that's one goal. Or if you're trying to work on performance, are you training for a specific race as a 70.3 triathlon or a marathon, or you want to qualify for a Boston Marathon, or you're trying to do 70.3 Worlds or Ironman, whatever it is, you have a specific goal and you want to compete at your age group, or maybe you just want to finish. So that's a big thing. And I'm just looking back at some notes from when I worked with Ben Greenfield's Kion program. We learned a lot of good eye-openers. And training for longevity, if you follow Mark Sisson, he's a great example of someone that went from endurance sports and really researched and learned a lot about the damage he was doing to his own body, and started to do more shorter burst training. And, Josh Axe talks about this too, and everyone seems to be going that direction, more of the HIIT training, that short burst, recover and repair. And Mark Sisson's thing is, his goal for longevity is lift, move, and sprint. And then you have Laird Hamilton, who really is amazing athlete, surfer, as you know, married to Gabby Reese. And his challenge for himself is to learn new things. And you see him doing the same Navy SEALs training, if you follow them on Instagram, and doing underwater underwater jump squats with weights on, and just crazy stuff that they do to challenge themselves and work on longevity. But there's lots of people that have switched, I think, from doing this long distance training to shorter distance. Now, if you're doing a race, yeah, maybe you do need to do some longer stuff, but do you need to do as much distance work as you're doing? Maybe you need to look at more the minimalist style of training and doing some shorter workouts weekdays, which is great if you work full time, and add more burst training or HIIT training, or as I've been doing Tuesday, Thursdays for the winter time, riding the bike, doing a 15-minute bike set and then jumping on the treadmill 5 minutes and returning back to the bike. So I can do more higher heart rates on the run, doing sprint work, and then do lower heart rate recovery work on the bike and building my endurance. So there's different ways you can do it, but too much of anything, as I always say, is toxic. Too little of anything causes deficiencies. So right in between, the right amount depends on you, your body, your genetics, and finding that Goldilocks effect. What is the right amount of exercise that does not lead you down a path to metabolic chaos and having all these external stressors and internal stressors accumulating, overfilling your beaker of stress and causing disruption to your hormone system, to your immune system, to digestion, detoxification, and your mitochondria function. The list just goes on because, as we keep saying, it's all connected. And exercise for athletes is a really important part of working on your longevity. So how can you do both? How can you train for a race and perform your best and have great performance gains without speeding up the aging process? How can you do it, a race, without damage? Now, if you've been following me, I've been trying to interview more people on mitochondria function on my Monday episode, talking a lot on my blog, debbiepotts.net, and my social media page is Low Carb Athlete, talking about red light and near-infrared therapy, True Niagen supplement, mitochondria supplement from MitoQ is another one. And what are some different things we can do to improve our longevity with supplementation and biohacking and working with the infrared sauna and different good hormetic stressors? So how much exercise does it take? Well, we know good base foundation is beneficial. Having the American Cancer Society, American ACSM, is the one that's going to tell us the universal government recommended guidelines, 150 minutes per week. That's 21 minutes per day. And this article says after 450 minutes a week, more than 1 hour a day, the benefits plateau. So more is not better. The maximum effective dose of exercise to maximize longevity is 150 minutes per week of moderate activity. That's 20 to 30 minutes of which should be, once you build up foundation, I think, vigorous activity. So that's more 30 seconds on, 10 seconds off, 45-second intervals, 15 seconds off, whatever. Maybe it's 2 minutes of strength training and then 1 minute cardio blast. Different ways you can do it. But that is, a big part of the challenge of doing triathlons and marathons and long distance cycling. It's a little bit longer than 30 minutes, 45 minutes over that. When I had my worst part of my adrenal exhaustion in 2013, I was told just to do under 45 minutes, mostly walking and strength training, because as I keep talking, is an anabolic to catabolic ratio, and we want to do more strength training and build up those hormones, not do exercise as cardio, those people that sit on the elliptical machine, hang on it, and do an hour or 2 hours of cardio thinking more is better. It's not. Remember, Maffetone years ago wrote the article, and Paul Larson has some information research with Maffetone on his Hit Science page, but being fit and unhealthy. It's like your hood of your car, underneath it is a mess, but your outside of your car, shiny, buff looking, polished, and beautiful colors. What about your body? Are you looking good on the outside? You're lean and cut. You've got, good muscle definition, and you're running strong and you're feeling great on the outside. But what happens to your inside the more you do this? And I talked to Reed Davis on a podcast that comes out in a couple of weeks about this. These hidden internal stressors athletes don't know about, because this exercise that we're doing to ourselves is breaking down our insides, causing this domino effect. So we can help support our mitochondria by doing the higher intensity interval training during the week, doing the cold thermogenesis training, doing the infrared sauna, working on the red near light infrared. I'm going to interview what's the one I just found? Mitochondria, this little red light therapy. So I'm going to interview them, and we'll talk to True Niagen as well, and people from Quicksilver, Scientific Quicksilver supplements. So talking to other experts about their ideas, but how we can improve our longevity as we train for a race. How can you do performance and longevity together? So I think a lot of supplementation and hormetic stressors, recovery and repair is really important, including, I use Kion products, the branched chain amino acids, and their Flex product has a great new formulation they just came out with. I use the Kion coffee, of course, in the mornings. I get the auto shipped every month, but also the importance of antioxidants, that we're creating this oxidative stress when we exercise. And again, that's the Goldilocks effect. It's a little bit is good, not too much, not too little, but just the right amount that causes that benefit to recover and repair, and you get those gains. Like if you're lifting weights, you break down your muscle and you get the gains when you recover and when your muscles repair and get stronger. Same thing with exercise. It's that recovery we want to have, and the cells that damage we're doing it to, we want not too much of it, and you don't want to have too much pro-oxidation, and you don't want too many antioxidants. So we need that right balance between the two. So there's the training for performance. We want to look at these different elements. We've got endurance, speed and power, strength, mobility, and we have balance. So I call a lot of programs for my clients is stability, mobility, core day, and working on all these different elements. And I think a lot of people, athletes, especially triathletes, when they're doing swim, bike, run, they forget the part of the mobility, the strength, the core work, the balance you need, the single leg, single arm exercises. So what is endurance? So when we did our Kion program, Ben said, I don't know who those quotes from, but endurance is, and the universal definition, the ability of the heart, lungs, and vascular system to deliver oxygen, nutrient-rich blood to the working muscles during a sustained physical activity, and the ability of those muscles to repeat a movement or hold a position for extended period of time. That's what endurance is. But what we do wrong, as many athletes do, is that black hole training I've talked a lot about. And years ago, we did many podcasts with Phil Maffetone talking about the max aerobic function heart rate, the 180 minus your age. That's your maximum aerobic heart rate you want to stay at. And I just put that into a blog the other week on my website. So go back and read those blogs of max aerobic function and how we can improve our metabolic efficiency and look at what metabolic flexibility is. But what not to do for training is this black hole training, working not at your max aerobic function heart rate and not doing HIIT training, getting high heart rate. So for me, that's staying 120 to 140 heart rate for my aerobic engine exercises, workouts. And then there's high heart rate. Get up above 155, try to hit 160, 172 I can get to, and then recover. So recovery-based training, but I need a heart rate monitor to push myself to get to 160, 170 and come back down to 130 before I go up again. And that's not holding that very long, just a minute to 5 minutes, depending on the workout I'm doing. But instead, so many people do that zone in between, and that's called black hole training. So single speed athletes, you're unable to push the limits, poor recovery, higher risk of injury, disrupted hormones I just talked about, and chronic disease. That's all related to too much of anything, of black hole training for athletes. And I know a lot of athletes, especially when I was in Ironman Hawaii last month, 2 months ago, I saw a lot of athletes doing that. Yes, they're super fit, strong. They're doing Ironman Hawaii. But what's going to happen to their body if they keep doing that? What is under the hood? Are they fit on the outside and unhealthy on the inside? I guarantee if I gave them lab work that I'm doing now and did their metabolic assessment, measuring the damage they're doing to their cells, the oxidative stress, look at their liver function with the bile acids and their detoxification processes, how effective they are, and then looking at their protein, their indican levels to see if they're breaking down their proteins and getting those amino acids, or are they having dysbiosis. There's so much we can look at with these labs to really show an athlete, here's what's going on inside the hood. Like take your car in and get a tune-up that's what we should be doing to our bodies with a health coach if we are going to push it to this extent. Doing marathon, cycling, Ironman, Spartan racing is crazy too. Those people aren't doing anything better than us. I think it's harder on their body, or just as hard, because my clients do Spartan races tell me how they miss an obstacle. You have to do like 100 burpees. It's crazy. So they're just pushing their body even probably harder heart rates. I don't know. Or maybe it's equal. Who knows? You can tell me. So endurance training methods, what we talk about in our Kion Coach program, is polarized training. You may have heard of. What is that? That means it's 80% of your training is below your lactate threshold, is below zone 3. And then you do 20% of your training above zone 4. So you're avoiding that black hole. This training increases your mitochondrial density, boosts fat oxidative capacity, and increases your slow twitch muscle fiber function. And this is more what Maffetone talks about. You're doing kind of Maffetone training, the max aerobic function heart rate, 80% of the time. And then 20% of the time, you're doing more the pain cave, as Ben always says. So you're doing more the high intensity interval program. You're increasing your aerobic base and your speed. But the challenge is for a lot of people that work and have a life, it's hard because it takes more time. So that is more the problem is timing for that, because you end up spending 20 hours a week training, and most people don't have that. So they end up, as I used to do, burn the candle at both ends. Now, what if you did HIIT type of training, more the minimalist training? So this means you're doing all out efforts of quick bursts of exercise followed by short recovery. And this would be more similar to the polarized training, but with the high intensity interval training, you're activating your AMPK pathways, which is giving you more fat oxidation, increases your post-exercise oxygen consumption, so EPOC. More calories are burned post-workout is what that means, EPOC. Also lowers your insulin level, so insulin resistance, and requires less time. So it's less health risks, but often more health risks if you do it too much. So again, it's like people that used to do CrossFit and different training centers and people doing these studios with high intensity interval training. You just need that every other day. You should not do HIIT training back-to-back days. You're breaking yourself down and not giving yourself to build back up. So it's just, how do you find the balance between the two type of trainings for longevity and performance? So what we talked about is taking polarized training plus HIIT training and doing it less than 20 hours a week. So what if you could train as Ironman? That sounds like a lot for anybody else, but you're doing 16 hours a week of 16 hours a week of aerobic heart rate, that max aerobic function. And then you're doing 4 hours a week of HIIT training. And then you have one recovery day, one easy workout. I call it active recovery or an injury prevention mobility. I usually do mobility Mondays with my clients. Now, the other type of training is the minimalist training called the ancestral athlete approach. So this is more time restricted. People would probably prefer this training. So low level of activity all day with minimal sitting, lifting something heavy every day, spending as much time outdoors as possible, 3 to 4 intense workouts per week, 1 to 2 long aerobic sessions per week, and 1 recovery day, easy workout or mobility injury prevention session. So those are 2 different ways to look at endurance training. Now, you've got speed and power you can add in, doing plyometrics. There's speed strength sets. There's complex training workouts that I do a lot. I like doing squats and a squat jump, bench press, then a burpee, or a chest press, then a wall ball, pull-ups, and then ball slam, something back to back. And then we've got over speed training, that you're doing downhill running, which I love to do, great for Boston Marathon. And then we've got over speed cycling where you're doing, speed up surges and then recover, kind of what I see a lot of people at Soul Cycle doing, crazy amount of that, a little too much. And the Peloton bikes, I see people using those at the club that I go to. They have 5 Peloton bikes and I'm watching them ride as I'm on my spin bike behind them. And then there's, just training fresh, doing speed workouts. Don't overtrain and challenging yourself with new exercises, mixing it up. So it's called muscle confusion. And not training in an exhausted state. I see that a lot. Really important to listen to past episodes on heart rate variability and how to measure if you're recovered. Are you repaired and ready to go for next workout session? If you can afford it, getting an Oura ring. I think they're on sale right now, holiday season, New Year's. But I don't like wearing that big a ring on my finger except my wedding ring and have another ring. I just think it'd bug me when I'm sleeping, but I still would like to know the data. I think it'd be great to know on my recovery heart rate variability because it's a little more work to have to get up, put a heart rate strap on in the morning, go lay back down for 5 minutes rather than wake up and get ready to tackle the day. That's just a little harder for me during the week. Maybe on a weekend I can do that, but an Oura ring would make it more easier to find out your HRV. So also looking at nutrients, we've talked before about branched chain amino acids. I really like Kion's new product. They have a powder form, so you don't have to take those big chalky tablets. Omega-3 fatty acids are really important for inflammation, anti-inflammation. So having more fish in your diet and getting omega-3 gels that don't taste fishy. Don't buy the supplements that are cheap. You get what you pay for. Don't buy the supplements at Costco or the grocery store, the drugstores, those stuff. The supplements are you're just going to pee them out. So they don't even help you. And green tea is really good to have, choline and B vitamins. I really like the liquid B liposomal drops that you can get from Quicksilver Scientific. I have a coupon on my website. It's 10% off. We can give out to people, but it's really good to have the liposomal drops. You hold them under your tongue for 30 seconds. And I really like the methyl B complex and the glutathione, which helps your liver detoxification, which we're overloading our liver with everything every day, but also excessive exercise. We're adding more oxidative stress and adding more load on our liver with our exercise. So supporting the liver function with glutathione. What else do I take from them? There's a mitochondria supplement I like too from Quicksilver, but I mix it up. And strength training is really important, especially off season. Strength training, doing the super slow training I love to do, going up in exercise and then going like 10 seconds, 20 seconds down is really slow. But, just working out 15, 30 minutes. You don't need a long session. You can get so much in when you're doing back-to-back exercise, doing upper body, lower body, or push, pull, or single leg, something with a single arm, and always engaging your core and working on stability, mobility, and having that connection from your core and your balance and everything. So I do a lot of cable machines and I do a lot of like single leg lunge to balance and then hold a cable and do a one arm row and maybe do a low row. And I do a lot of chest presses with the cables and, doing a squat press. And there are all these different things you can do with cable machines, with tubing, with, there's a company called Stroops that I like that you can have at home easily and wrap around something and has good resistant bands and you can do really heavy bands. So it's STROOPS is Stroops. It's bright orange. You can see that on Amazon. And I did a blog on home equipment actually for some clients, but I put it on my website on my blog page on recommended home equipment. So just like a BOSU, the Stroops bands, ankle bands, kettlebells, and medicine balls and mats. I put all onto a blog. Okay, so other supplements, obviously having protein, real food. I've been doing grass-fed burgers a lot, just making them at home, grass-fed steak, and getting all the nutrients I need that is kind of the main reason I started eating red meat after 30 years is I'm always anemic. I'm low in the supplements that they say are great for mitochondria, which is creatine, carnitine, and the B vitamins and amino acids and all this good stuff. So I try to have real food. So that's coming from more doing that keto carnivore style of eating, though I still have some, I do like Mary Gone crackers, her new crackers, what are they called? The rosemary ones. I like to have some of those sometimes. And really work on mobility, foam roller work, and I like using the power plate. And so doing strength training, getting more power, higher weight right now, and more focus on sets and lower reps, I think is fun to do for the wintertime, but keep working on mobility and stability and activating your core. So I call it bracing, but adding the right supplementation and getting your base training, working on, like I just did a swim lesson in the swimming pool someone does at their house, and working on technique for your sport. My area of opportunity is always swimming, and so I did a swim lesson and working on my running to get my speed back where I was years ago. I just find it more my mitochondria need to get stronger, so I'm working on my supplements and my biohacking techniques for my mitochondria. But running is something I think I'll be able to see, hopefully, if my theory is right, that my running speed should hopefully improve as my mitochondria get stronger and my stress has gone down in my life, and hopefully I can start to see that on my next lab reports, and working on my leaky gut, which causes inflammation in your body, and work on healing and repairing with the right nutrients and getting rid of foods that I'm sensitive to. And then I still need to do my GI pathogen test to see what other hidden internal stressors that are causing me fatigue. But how you train, you can work on that right now. You don't have to do any lab tests, but wearing a heart rate monitor is key. So if you want to combine longevity and performance, here's an example Ben Greenfield gave us in our Kion program. So one example of endurance is a 90-minute sport-specific endurance activity 1 or 2 times a month. Another is to do interval training with full recovery 1 to 2 times a week. And then to work on speed and power, you can add a plyometric speed strength complex or an overspeed training type of workout 2 times a week, done alone or prior to your strength workout. Then your strength workout is robust, periodized strength training 1 to 2 times a week. So you can add your speed and power and strength together. Balance workout is a daily activity you can do, such as standing on one leg, balancing on uneven surfaces. I have blue pads at my studio and pillow pads, not my studio, where I train my clients. I don't have my studio anymore. Standing on a towel. I have this little wobble board to stand on, but really working on walking and balancing on uneven surfaces, walking barefoot. I always do, even at home when I'm training, I have a barefoot minimal shoe. Get rid of running shoes when you guys do strength training. It drives me nuts. I do not let my clients wear running shoes. I strongly suggest that they wear a minimal shoe, or if I was in my own studio, I'd have them wear bare feet. It depends on the workout of the day, but that's a big part of seeing how you distribute your body weight. When you're doing a lunge or squat or a squat press, something involves upper body, we still want to see what the feet are doing. And when you're wearing socks and when you're wearing big shoes, running shoes, you can't see what you are doing with your feet. So I wear toe socks, a 5-finger toe socks for years. I've worn them. And you can even, take your shoes off and have your socks on to see what you're doing. But if you're at home, like right now, my bare feet on, standing on one leg, I can see what my toes are doing, and always looking at, spreading my toes out, because I do have a bunion on my right foot, but I try to, avoid bunion surgery by working on my feet, my foot exercises. Okay, and then also mobility exercises, dynamic stretching, foam roller work. Optional is getting some deep tissue, ART, Some stretch therapy is always great if you can get that in when you're training a little more. And the metabolic health workouts, that's 10 to 30 minutes in the morning of light activity. So getting up, starting your day, having cold shower one time a day. Ben, you'll jump in the cold river, and all these people are into the cold therapy, and Brad Kearns, I can't. I'm a wimp. I like warm. So I'd rather do my infrared sauna and then try to do cold shower afterwards. But the other thing we've talked about for longevity is your fasting, intermittent fasting, and doing 12 or more hours of fasting. 16 hours isn't as hard as it might sound if you're new to fasting, but adding in intermittent fasting is another hormetic stressor, because it's eat, don't eat. That's kind of the on-off is a hormesis. So cold shower, hot, cold, and the infrared sauna, HIIT training. These are all acute stress, small doses of stress. And what we're trying to do is avoid chronic stress. So to do longevity and performance training program, your endurance workouts are maybe once or twice a month, or maybe you're training for more bigger, longer distance races. Maybe you do that once a week, and then the weekdays you're doing the short stuff. You know what? I've been looking for this slide for longest time. So this is another podcast I'm going to do with, hopefully, interview the author of Roar. Everyone keeps talking about the women, how they should train, and based on the menstrual cycle. So we've got a few minutes. I'm going to talk about this now. So women's training cycle, there's a great, this is when you're getting older. I can't read this picture without putting on glasses. I don't feel old, but I can't see anything. So let's touch on this training considerations for women before I wrap up today's show. This is a huge topic, especially with all these people doing keto, and a lot of people like, I don't know if does it work for me? Everybody's different. I would do the metabolic typing diet for one, but also women's cycle. If you're still menstruating, man, you might not want to, well, maybe you want to know this. You should know this to support your wife, spouse, or workout partners that are females. Your metabolism decreases on, day 1 through day 13, and your insulin sensitivity increases. And then your ovulatory phase, days of 14 to 20, your metabolism increases and insulin sensitivity decreases. And then you have your luteal phases, days 22 to 28. So what we can see is you're eating your carbs and protein are going to be different, and maybe your workout will be different. So menstrual cycle days 1 through 7, you have carbs, red meat, fatty acids, and then gentle restorative exercise. Then the follicular phase, days 18 to 13, then you're having more carbs, protein, leafy greens, glycolytic intense workouts, more lifting that week. And then the next week, days 14 to 21, that's when you can have more fat, cruciferous vegetables, aerobic fat burning workouts. And then your luteal phase, days 22 to 28, your fats, root vegetables, and berries, kind of more your foods that your body wants, and low intensity aerobic exercise. So for women, we should maybe look at doing our aerobic fat burning maffetone type of max aerobic function heart rates in our endurance training, days 14 to 28. And then easy workouts the first week of your cycle, which you kind of feel like crap anyways a lot of times, so it ends up being that way. And be lighter week, you don't have the energy often. And then days 8 through 13 is your follicular phase, and that's when you do the intense workouts, more lifting. So it ends up being maybe your rest recovery week are days 1 through 7, which TMI, but that's my cycle right now, and I'm doing an easier week without planning it, but it ended up being that way. And that's what my body wanted. And as you have years of experience with adrenal exhaustion, as I did, you know how to listen to your red flags and how to train your schedule based on what your body says. And that's what my body said this week: shorter, easier workouts. And then maybe for me next week, days 8 through 13, I'm going to do more heavy lifting. I'm going to do more sprints. And then the third week, I'm doing more aerobic fat burning workouts. So working on my 130 heart rate to 140, and then continue doing more low intensity. But this is kind of what we'll talk about. The Women Code book, the Roar, can't remember her name, but that's great conversations right now with some other Facebook friends and coaches that's talking about training considerations for women. That is a biggie, and I think a lot of people forget that. So anyways, wrap up my long, rambling 45-minute session that was always going to be 30 minutes. I talk suddenly again, all by myself, talking to a microphone for 45 minutes. It's so scary, but it's true. I did this again. So endurance, polarized training plus HIIT training, or ancestral health approach. Speed and power, you're doing plyometrics, speed, strength sets, complex training, and overspeed training. If you're doing strength, it's super slow training, body weight training, and different training as the heat stress too can actually help your strength. And the mobility drills, always dynamic stretching, deep tissue work, again, traction is good, and balance. So balance, stability, mobility, huge. So balance, various training methods you can do for that. And then training for longevity, training for performance, keep in mind, is 10 to 20 hours max a week. And then training for longevity, you would do just 150 minutes a week. That's 20 to 30 minutes, but more intense workouts. So it makes sense. Longevity, if you want to live longer, you work out less. If you want to work on your performance and speed up the aging process, you work out more. So that's kind of funny. So you can get, if you want to improve your aging process, do more sprints, do more Tabatas, super slow lifting, body weight, high intensity interval training is something you can do at home. I have tons of tags or boards, whatever you call it, on my Pinterest, low carb athlete on Pinterest, as well as tons of other boards on food and health and nutrition. But body weight HIIT training, easy to do anywhere. That's burpees, mountain climbers, speed skaters, jump squats, all that stuff. And then we've got light morning fasted activity. Wake up and don't work out. Have a cold shower. Do infrared, which mine's heating up for me now. Should be ready to go. And longer, moderate aerobic session is going out for a hike, going for a long run, walk, trail run, biking, doing a race. That stuff, longer, moderate sessions, 1 to 2 times a month. Or if you're training for an event, as I am next year, it's once a week, not 4 times a week. That's once a week. So that is performance and longevity for you today. And I'll try to put some of this in the show notes. But if you want more information, you can look at Ben's book. We have on somewhere, I can't find it. I have all these books here, but his big book, the huge one he came out a few years ago, has a lot of this information in it, and you can learn all about performance gains and longevity. But just look back at my blog and past podcasts. Remember, we have almost 300 episodes of The Whole Athlete, and then there's another 100 episodes of stuff you're probably interested in that you didn't know about in 2011, but we were talking about it, but you were not around yet. So let's get on wpots.net and grab my new ebook that's on there, How to Burn Fat and Work on Your Performance Longevity. So some tips on my new ebook, and there's one on liver, one on chronic stress, and there's another one on the holistic method. So I hope you learned something new today. Hopefully we get some great podcasts lined up in the new year on Mondays, and then I'll be just talking to myself, and hopefully someone will be listening on Wednesdays and Fridays. Okay, enjoy your weekend and your day, or whatever day you're listening to this on, but it's time to get outside, do some squats, do some side bends, reverse lunges, and work on your mobility, because if you've been sitting all day and if you ran this morning or biked, you're probably really tight. So do something now, and then smile and laugh for 30 seconds. That's your interval training. Laugh for 30 seconds. Okay, bye.
Thanks for listening to the Whole Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at wholeathletepodcast.com. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.